Hello, welcome to Claret and Blue. My name is Dan Rollins and I'm joined this afternoon by John Townley, back from the US on a terrible sleep schedule, John. Been trying to work with you over the last couple of days and it's not getting out of bed till after midday and it's making my life very difficult. But I understand jet lag is annoying to deal with. How are you, besides tired?
I feel like I'm back at uni again. No, I'm doing well, thank you. I am tired. I probably look tired as well. But no, enjoying it. The season's a week away now. Valencia on Saturday. Pre-season's nearly done. I think Villa are in a really good place as well. So really excited for the season ahead.
And just to clarify, for your sleep schedule more than anything else, you're not at Valencia, are you? You're not going?
No, not going to Valencia. It's only the one game, so we thought, because we've done the USA, I've been a bit of everywhere, so yeah, just going to cover that one from home. It's Newcastle, which might as well be in Scotland, so you know.
So obviously we're here to talk today about Aston Villa versus Lazio at the Bescot. A great result, as much as we don't kind of really care about results in pre-season. 3-0 against a very good Serie A side. I think that was second last season, so we'll be in next year's Champions League as well. And by all accounts, they started with at least a pretty strong side as well. So the further you get into the pre-season, the more you can take from the games because you're playing against better opposition and you're nearer the start of your season. So as much as we were saying for the Walsall pre-season game a few weeks ago, it's kind of irrelevant, it doesn't matter. The further you get into it, it does start to matter a little bit, and that is a really good result. Just before we get into that, we won't be doing a podcast for Valencia because, like you said, you're covering it from home, so you'll be very busy doing your usual match day stuff. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff. We're both off on Sunday, and our next show is planned to be Monday, which is the Conference League draw, which has kind of come out of nowhere for the playoff rounds. So it'll be today we're doing this, and then Monday will be our next show. So we're going to talk about pre-season as a bit of a wider topic here, and hopefully this podcast doesn't kind of go out of date once Valencia kicks off tomorrow night. It's still kind of the general talking points of the season. A strong side for Villa as well that kicked off last night. Yuri Tielemans looking very good. John McGinn scoring a worldie if it was deflected. Still a nice goal. The penalty conundrum is something we're going to talk about. Who is our penalty taker? Philippe Coutinho looks sharp, which to me is a little bit of a bonus. The kind of three centre halves with Pau Torres playing off the left back and building up as a three in possession is very interesting. So loads of little different talking points that we're going to get into. But first of all, you were at Bescot last night, so do you want to kind of give me your general thoughts on the game as an overall first?
Another game which they controlled, and I was thinking as well, we've obviously played Walsall now, a lower league team. We've played Newcastle, who are a good Premier League team. You've played Fulham, Brentford, who both have different styles. And Lazio is obviously another style as well, being an Italian team. Villa are going to be playing in the Conference League. So I think it was a good test because it's a different opposition. However, they didn't really turn up, Lazio, unless Villa were just so good and like they overrun them in midfield. They were far too good for them across the pitch, and I don't remember Ciro Immobile getting a touch of the ball apart from when Ezri Konsa beat him in a foot race and then knocked him off balance and won a foul anyway. So probably the credit goes to Villa on that one. And I know Lazio are a week behind Villa in their preparations because their season starts a week after Villa's does. Really impressive from Villa. I think at this stage in pre-season, as you say, Dan, yes, we haven't one more game remaining, but we are a week before the season kicks off. So what we're going to see against Lazio is going to be very similar against Valencia in terms of patterns of play and where we're at in terms of fitness. 3-0 didn't flatter Villa at all. There was a period in the first half for about 7 or 8 minutes, which doesn't sound like a long time, but we were bombarding their goal. And in the second half as well, they didn't want to be there. Apart from the fans. The Lazio fans were class though. But I suppose if you're going to come all the way to the Bescot, you would.
I wonder how the Lazio found the Bescot and the experience of being in Warsaw. It was a bit of a culture change.
Yeah, there was 5 or 6 journalists as well that I presume were Lazio contingent, and they looked a little bit lost in the press box as well, because it's not a big press box and probably a good experience for them anyway to go to a lower league ground in England. But no, really positive performance from Villa. Nice to see lots of different players get minutes as well. I thought Emery might have given 90 minutes or so to 7 or 8 players, and then against Valencia given 7 or 8 players 90 minutes as well that didn't play against Lazio. He pretty much changed it all at half time, which I thought was interesting. So against Valencia, we'll probably be seeing the same thing maybe, or the full 90 for the squad that or the 11 that he thinks will be playing against Newcastle. I'm not
Yeah.
sure yet. I think that's the only thing that I'm. It's not really a concern, but I don't think we've seen 11 players on the pitch for 80, 90 minutes that we know are going to play against Newcastle. We've seen different back threes or back fours, however you want to look at it. We've seen different midfields, different combinations, which is great. But I think Valencia, I would like to see a set 11 on the pitch just ahead of Newcastle, who I don't think you want to go going into that game, which will be a cauldron at St James's Park, and we're kind of or players are playing in ways that they might not have played too much. Do you know what I mean? That they might not have played with their central centre half, and Pau Torres might not have played with Mings for too long. And I don't know. You don't want to go in the first game with the players thinking or not having an experience of playing exactly how they would against Newcastle. I don't quite know how to say it, but I think you know what
I know what you mean, but I do feel it's slightly different with Emery as well, because that whoever plays, it's almost just a plug and play, that they know the system, they understand it. But I know you know if you're going to play Conson, Mings, and Torres as a auxiliary back three, back four, hybrid, whatever it is, you want them to have played 80 minutes together or whatever to kind of get a rhythm and an understanding. As much as they'll all understand what Emery wants them to do, it's that kind of just physical thing of having time with each other that they probably haven't quite had just yet.
Hopefully against Valencia, that's what we see, and that's not a negative point. That's just me talking out loud, because there's been a lot of chop and change. But at the same time, it's a good thing because no one's looked out of place, and they haven't been playing. They have been playing with different partnerships, so that proves your point, Dan. That they're all aware of what they need to do. It's just that when you're in an intense Premier League game against a very good team, yes, we've already played them in America, but it's going to be totally different in Newcastle. Yeah, really positive. I think we are probably one of 3 or 4 Premier League teams that are probably going to hit the season knowing exactly who they are, where they are in terms of fitness, in terms of tactics. They know what the manager wants, and they've got the players through the door as well. So we're in a really good place. And looking back on seasons previously, I think this is as good as it gets in terms of preparations for a new campaign.
Yeah, and it feels different, and I don't really know how to describe it, because obviously a lot of the games have been kicking off in America, so it's a different kind of feeling. You maybe not with it as much as you would be as if you played 5 or 6 games in England, or one in France, or things that we've done in previous seasons. We've had good pre-seasons in the past where you win 3 out of 4 or whatever, and you start the season and you maybe lose the opening game. You think, well, all that was for nothing, kind of thing. And again, we could lose the Newcastle game, and I wouldn't feel that same way, that it was all a waste of time. But we have had that in the past, because it's Unai Emery's first pre-season with Villa. You can just it is strange, because when we did that first Warsaw podcast, I said I'm not really that bothered about pre-season, like it's just for fitness. And I was wrong when I said that, because it's different for Emery. It's about learning. It's you can see that we're trying things, and that's just my inexperience of having a proper manager at Villa, because I didn't really understand that's what it was going to be about. I just thought it's for fitness, it's for minutes. Emery's serious about it now. He wants them to be better and better as each week goes by in pre-season. He wants to trial different things. He wants to play players in different positions. So whilst I understand your point that for Valencia, and it's only 2 days break between Lazio and Valencia, and we thought maybe in the back end of the America tour that we'd kind of split the squad and do one half plays 90 minutes against Valencia and the other half plays 90 minutes against Lazio, and that wasn't the case. So you'd expect the full first team to go over to Valencia and again play the same kind of splits of 60, 70 minutes and then some changes. But that's interesting too. I mean, I don't know whether other Villa fans kind of feel the same way, that they weren't really bothered about pre-season, but having seen Emery do one, it's like, okay, well, I kind of get it now. Like, we're trying to learn new things and tweak tactical styles, which we haven't seen previous Villa managers do. It was just all about fitness before. Am I just thick in saying that, or do you kind of feel the same way?
Obviously, tactics and embedding new things, and that is a key part, but I didn't expect him to change the system that we're going to be playing. And I know it's only a back 3 in possession, which might sound quite minor, but it's a huge adaptation to what Villa were doing last season. And it's a lot to learn as well, because that changes how the midfielders receive the ball. It changes the angles in which the fullbacks are, that's why we bought Pau Torres. And at the time, we were all thinking, it's because he just wants to add more competition. And now you have 2 left footers, 2 right footers. But you look at it now and you're thinking, well, Pau Torres will play off the left in terms of a back 3. When we're building up, you presume Tyrone Mings will stay in the middle as a central centre-back, so you can have your 2 left footers there. And then Ezri Konsa, to me, looks like a shoe-in playing off the right, because he's so comfortable with the ball. It's not necessarily progressive Konsa, but he's just so relaxed, and he rarely gives it away. Often last season, he'd be putting up like 96% passing accuracy in games. Again, not necessarily pushing it through the thirds, but in that role, you just need to retain it and let Torres push through and almost become a midfielder at points. So I didn't expect those big changes. I thought he'd just be relaying information and adding little bits here and there, bringing in new signings to make a difference in, over the course of the season. So I wasn't expecting as big a change as what's happened, but it looks really exciting. Again, Villa are playing it well. There doesn't seem to be too many teething issues with it. Obviously, Villa have conceded a few goals. Newcastle, we conceded 3, and Brentford, we conceded 3. But I think if you look in the Newcastle game for a start, that was our second game, our first game with most of our players. Obviously, also we were missing the vast majority of the team.
Yeah.
And against Brentford, the goals that they scored, one of them was a peach from De Silva. The other 2, I think, were avoidable at stages. The ball over the top. Those things will be ironed out. And I've said it before, I think for Villa, they're making opportunities, they're creating chances, they're getting players in the right positions. The goals that we're scoring aren't, I don't know how to say it, but you can tell what Villa are doing. There's a build up there, and there's a reason for those attacks. I spoke to Emery after the game in Brentford, and I said that you're not just keeping the ball for the sake of it. There's a purpose to it. Your players know where they need to be in the final third, and sometimes Villa will have 5 or 6 players like around the box, but they're all in space and they're all making angles for each other. Diaby's dropping short or going in behind. So is McGinn. They're working off each other. It's not just they're standing there and hoping that the ball's going to fall to them.
Like creating space for themselves.
Yeah, yesterday Callum Chambers, hoofed. He didn't hoof it in the box, but it looked like a hoof in the box. At one point, but then you've got Emi Buendia standing there and he works an angle, puts his back into the defender, makes space for himself, and then on another day could have scored with his left foot. So Villa are very dangerous going forward. Yeah. Equally, you'd hope that they're going to be as solid as what they were last season from a defensive point of view as well. But in terms of in possession and how Emery wants it to look, how he wants Villa to control games, that's the main positive for me over pre-season. That we're bringing in a new system and we are controlling games. We're keeping possession well and we're making angles for passes, and that's the midfield as well that we've got too is top draw.
Yeah, we're going to do our proper big season preview show next week. That'll come out before obviously the season opener against Newcastle, probably next midweek that'll come out. But I've never been, again, what I've just said about we've had good pre-seasons in the past where you win a few games. I've never been this excited about the start of a Premier League season than I am for this one, just because of Emery and the way we play. We're always exciting to watch. We're fun to watch, and I think Emery, from neutrals who haven't watched Villa and didn't really pay attention last season, think Emery's a defensive manager. We'll see this low block of a 6 or whatever because the wingers will drop back in. It'll be a back 6. Oh, very negative Aston Villa. They've nicked that result there. That's not the case. Villa will be fun this year, and I think what you say there about Villa score goals and concede goals will be true, and Emery will certainly want to iron out that we stop conceding as many goals as the season progresses. But as we sit here now on the 4th of August, Villa will score goals, and I think they'll concede a decent amount of goals at least to begin with as they settle into this kind of back three. But there is a difference obviously between pre-season and the proper stuff, but Villa will definitely score goals and are dangerous going forward. And it goes back to possibly the John McKenzie episode we did about the tactical side of Emery when he first joined, about the repeatable actions of going forward, that these patterns of play, that they're playing this way because they can be consistent in their attacks and do the same things all the time. And we see that every week now, that that's that little move that Villa do. That's how they unlock a defence there. It's nice to see that kind of repeatability. I felt there's a little bit, I don't know how to describe this, if I'm saying this in kind of the right technical or tactical way or whatever, but it feels like there's more kind of verticality to Villa in terms of playing straight forward down the pitch. Instead of pinging little triangles and making space for themselves. Every so often in pre-season at least, they have had this kind of long vertical ball, like the Tielemans one for Watkins for the assist last night. Kamara did it in the Fulham game, I think, maybe, for the Archer penalty. Tielemans again did another, you know what I mean? Not like a long, like you said about Chambers, not a long hoof forward, but like a direct straight down the pitch kind of through ball from deep. I feel like we've done that more so in pre-season than we did last.
That's probably a cumulation of different things. Space afforded because the wingers are dropping into different pockets, allowing Ollie Watkins to run around the defence, and you've got the players who can pick those passes now, haven't you? Douglas Luiz, Yuri Tielemans, Boubacar Kamara. It's mental to think of that.
Pau Torres, like the list goes on. It's play the ball.
You don't even have to mention midfielders. Your centre halves can do it. There's so much quality in Villa's team that those variations of passes and those runs that can be made by the forwards, and again, the intelligence of the players around Ollie Watkins not to swarm him and to stay in their own space and make their own chances. I think that's important as well, because there seems to be a lot of quality on the pitch for Villa, and there's a lot of players that can make an impact, yet there doesn't seem to be a point in which Villa are all crowded together. Or, do you know what I mean? There's a method to it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Under Steven Gerrard, I suppose you could say, but Villa had quite a lot of quality on the pitch, but there wasn't really an idea of how they were fitting in. Or are we playing two up front today? What's Danny Ings or Ollie Watkins doing? Like, well, what's the plan here? That sort of thing. Under Emery, as we all know it, it's not a point that has to be made necessarily. But each one of those players has their job and they know what's going to happen. And they also know what their teammates are doing as well. So that's the benefit of having those long meetings and post-match reviews as well. So, yeah, Villa are in a really good place. And what you mentioned there, Dan, about different sort of patterns of play, that's all coming together. And we've had about a month pre-season now or so, or not even that much, sorry, 2 or 3 weeks of pre-season, and the new players already seem to have taken on board what Emery wants. So I don't doubt that after the start of the season as well, Villa will continue to progress, because this is only, as I say, a fortnight or so of practice under Emery for some of them, or for some of them doing working in a new system, i.e. Mings and Konsa. I mean, Villa were defending sometimes as a back three or playing in a back three at points last season, but building from the back and doing that every game at every moment, that is a big change. And as I say, for the midfielders as well, like Kamara's taking the ball from different angles. When Villa build up from the goalkeeper, Kamara might not drop in as he did previously. We don't know. Haven't really seen that yet, and how that's going to work in the Premier League. And things will change as well, because tweaks will have to be made too. Really pleased with what we've seen so far.
Quickly wanted to highlight Yuri Tielemans as well. Normally when we do these kind of post-match shows, we said this season they're going to be 25, 30 minutes, but as we're not doing a Valencia one, I want this to be a kind of a wider look at pre-season rather than just the Lazio game. Tielemans looks like he could be one of the signings of the summer for the Premier League, never mind just for Aston Villa. I know there's kind of the caveat that it's a free transfer, so it looks better, but we'll have paid big wages and big agent fees and all those kind of things. But it's still a free transfer. We've not paid 30, 40 million for him. I try to think, if Yuri Tielemans has been relegated with Leicester, he's got 2 or 3 years left on his deal, how much they'd be asking for him. Because I saw someone this morning put like Villa's midfield, like John McGinn 2 million, Douglas Luiz 15, then Kamara 3, Tielemans 3, Jack Ramsey, academy graduate. I think transfermarket.com has got their squad value to be like 140 million or something.
That's well undervalued.
Exactly, that's what I thought. Tielemans has been worth 20 million. Is his market value?
I don't understand the transfer values at all.
No, I don't. Some of them seem massively high and some are way off. Like Tielemans, if he's got 2 or 3 years left on his deal, Leicester are asking for 50 million easy. He's a very good footballer, and I knew he was good, and he pops up every so often. If you're not watching Leicester week in, week out, he'll score a banger, and you go, Tielemans is a nice, tidy footballer. He has good output as well. I never quite realised how intelligent of a footballer he was, and I think we spoke about this in one of the USA games, but he looks a level above what I expected him to be.
I mean, yes, I totally agree. I just don't know how the dynamic's going to work between him, Kamara, and Luiz. Again,
it matters. They'll all play.
I'm not trying to spin this into a negative whatsoever. I think it's a massive positive that Villa have all these options. But if you play all three, then what happens to John McGinn? What happens to Diaby? What happens to Jacob Ramsey when he comes back? You've got Ollie Watkins too. You've got fullbacks. There's so much. Buendia, Bailey. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's a massive positive, and I'm not trying to spin into a negative, but I just mean in terms of one of the signings of the summer. Yes, I don't doubt it is because it gives you a little depth, but I don't know if he'll be playing every game. I'd love him to do that, but then that's the expense of someone else. It's the same for Luiz. Luiz has to play every game, or most of them. Same as Kamara, he has to play every game because he's the ball winner. But you look at Tielemans and think, well, he has to play because he's that good.
This was the next point I was going to go through. I was watching a Who Scored preview with Dan Bardell and Martin Lawrence, and they were talking about who is like a definite starter for Villa. I think Martin got it down to 5 players who are like a guarantee to start every single game. Martinez and Watkins were 2 off the top of my head. Mings and Torres might have been the other 2, and then the other one was the midfield. And Martin went with Douglas Luiz. He's the one who's guaranteed to play. I think I agree. I think if we go back 12 months ago and Kamara signed on a free and the way he impacted the side it's only a year ago that Gerrard was here, which is mad. It feels like ages ago. But when we were first playing there, it was like Kamara is massively important to what Villa do here. Without him, we really struggle. And I get that. I kind of still agree to an extent.
I
But if you had to pick one midfielder out of those three who has to play, I would go with Louise now. I think Louise is more important to us than Kamara is.
That's really difficult. It's
very difficult.
I'll say Louise I think is probably our best player. Kamara is our only natural ball winner. And yes, we're playing in a different way, but I think we'll realise how important Kamara is still once we play Newcastle, once we play even Burnley away. Like, Kamara is extremely important still. So I almost put him in as a default, like, you're in because you are the only one that can do that job. I know Louise and Tielemans between them could probably do it, but I want that midfielder in the middle of the pitch who's going to win the ball back and nip in. Against Lazio, some of the stuff he was doing that isn't particularly...
Might show up on the highlights reels.
Yes, exactly that. But he just nip in and win the ball back, and that allows Tielemans to then play and do his thing without Kamara winning that ball. Possibly half the passes that Tielemans pulled off yesterday we don't see. So for me, Kamara starts. We should do that ourselves. So I'd say Martinez, obviously.
I think we'll have this conversation when we do our proper video next week, to be honest. Save it for then.
But the overall point is that we have so many options. And again, I don't want to turn that into a negative whatsoever. It's a huge positive that I'm sitting here saying, I don't know if Tielemans is going to play that many games or... I mean, yes, he will, but...
but he's not going to start 45 games.
John McGinn, for me, you have to start every game. Diaby, you probably have to start every game. Watkins, you have to start every game. So there's three.
It's difficult.
You have to play. There's loads of options, but I'm not set on Tielemans, Louise, and Kamara all playing in the same game, because if that happens, then someone else is taken out. Yes, it could happen on the 60th minute or something. I don't know. Villa are going to change the way that they play during games as well. So that's why it's so important. But I just mean starting from the off.
But there's a lot of talk in football recently about starters and finishers. Who starts the game and who finishes the game is two very different roles now. That Tielemans might start 30 games, let's say. But if Jacob Ramsey comes on, I mean, the thought of Jacob Ramsey not starting games sounds mad, but if Jacob Ramsey comes on to finish those 30 games and he makes an impact and scores the winner or whatever, the system works, doesn't it? So as long as Villa are successful at the end of the season and have achieved something, it won't really matter who's done their role to get there. But I understand the point of it seems like a mad amount of squad depth. But if you look at our bench now and the options we can make, like the 7 changes Villa made at half time or just after yesterday,
7 changes half time.
It was like, I don't know who they were off the top of my head, but Coutinho, Chambers, maybe McGinn, whoever it was. Yeah. When Villa did the tweet of like off, blah, 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 on, blah, 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 I was like, both of those 7s could all be first team players that start the game. Like they all look, maybe a couple of them would be on the fringes, but I saw somebody post this morning. Apologies, by the way, that I'm all over the place this afternoon. Somebody posted our starting 11 for the first game back in the Premier League in 2019. It was like El Ghazi, Trezeguet, Bjorn Engels, Matt Target. And it was like, we've come a long way. I know we say this almost every year now. We've come a long way in a pretty short space of time. But even from this season to last season, 12 months ago, Gerrard ball to Emery ball and the changes that we've made, the improvements to some of the players that were already here and the 3 new signings that we've added as well. I think Villa are a serious contender to do something this year. And I don't know what I mean by that yet. I don't know whether that means a Champions League place, a Europa League place, an FA Cup win, whatever it is. I think we'll be underestimated by a lot of the rest of the Premier League. Like when the national media and Match of the Day or whoever are doing their kind of like pre-season predictions, I don't think Villa will be anywhere near the kind of top 6, top 7. I think they'll just think, they've got Europe, so they're going to drop off a little bit now. Because they'll say Chelsea have got Pochettino now, and Postecoglou's going to do a great job at Spurs, and they'll be better this year. I think that a lot of people just automatically write Villa off and say, oh, they had a good back end of 2023, but they won't be able to keep that up. I think we'll be massively underestimated, and I think, like I said, I'll say this again on Wednesday, I think we'll do something this year. I think we'll win something or qualify for a certain competition and go down as a very, very good season.
If we didn't have European football, I'd put my cards on the table right now and say we'd finish in the top 6, and I wouldn't doubt that because of how good we were last season and the depth we have now. But I just do think there is that side of me that does think, well, we don't know how that's going to play out yet. Yeah, if we get to the quarterfinals of the Conference League, which I think is a massive possibility, and push on from there, those final 5 or 6 games of the season, or maybe it's even more, we won't be as 100% as what we would have been if we didn't have them. And I don't think I'm being negative in saying that. We have loads of squad depth, we really do. But
is that squad depth not the answer to that, though? That if, for example, we get to that latter stage of the season and Tielemans hasn't played much, he then comes in and becomes the Europa Conference League man, and those are his games at the back end of that tournament.
Yeah, it's just devil's advocate. I'm only saying it because I don't know. It could be fantastic. And Tielemans, Coutinho could even win us the Conference League. You know, that's the sort of depth we're having at the moment. And if every player plays to their strengths, we could probably do fine in the league and win the Conference League, and that's great. But it's just because we haven't been in this position before.
Emery has.
I don't know how it's going to. Emery has, yes, but a lot of those players haven't. I just think we don't know how it's going to go yet. So I can't sit here and say, yeah, Villa will finish 5th and win the Conference League, because that would be an almighty season, like seriously. And yes, we could do it. I just don't want to go on record and say that's exactly what's going to happen. I think Villa can finish top 7 and win the Conference League, and that would be a brilliant season. I think if we finish top 10 and win the Conference League, I think that would be a good season. Yes, we have squad depth, but injuries happen in a campaign. Players lose confidence. Like things, again, just being devil's advocate, I'm not trying to be negative or spin negative. I'm just Villa need to level their expectations as well going into the season. If we're thinking, okay, well, only Man City have got more points than us, and the players won't do this, or Emery won't do this either, but I just, City have only got more points than us in 2023, and then all of a sudden we lose a couple of games, and it's like, oh, what happened to depth? Why didn't we buy another striker? Well, it's a long season. Look how far. We had 13 games under Gerrard, didn't we? And that was a long time. It's going to be a long campaign. We're going to have a lot more games. It's a lot more meetings with Emery, which on the face of it sounds good, but how will the players adapt to that? We don't know yet. I'm sure it'll be fine, but while we're not certain that Villa will be finishing in the top 6 and win the Conference League, I'm not going to say that's going to happen. It could happen, yes, but the players will just be aiming to win every, the next game that they play, and then we'll see where Villa end up. But honestly, if we get to a semi-final of that Conference League, we know the players will know how much pressure there's on it for them to win it. We'll be going all out for those competitions, and I think that's only normal. It's not a negative on anything. I just being honest.
So some of that also is down to the fact that they are cup competitions, and there is the element of who you get in the draw. I don't know who the best team on paper is now in the Conference League, but if you get them in the quarter-final and they beat, Villa probably are, but whoever the second best is, if you get them in the quarter-final and they knock you out, that's game over. If you get Man City in the 5th round of the FA Cup, that's game over. And then you go, okay, well, we're out of those now. Off to the league. Top 3 we come.
I can see us going deep in the Conference League, because I think unless a couple of good teams come out of the Europa League, we should be going deep in that competition.
Well, we're one of the favourites, of course, yeah.
We should be, and but again, like Villa can absolutely do everything that people say. Well, most Villa fans will say they can do, and I'm in agreement. We can finish top 6 and win the Conference League. We absolutely can, but I just don't know if we'll have it in us towards the end of the season when we would have played so many games by then. So I just don't know how it's going to play out. But if we can get European football for the next season, then that's an accomplishment for me. And that's what Emery said as well. He said Villa need to finish top 7 next season again, because that's maintaining standards. And if we can win the Conference League, if we can win an FA Cup or a League Cup, then that's great, because Villa are only going to progress in terms of their squad, in terms of their depth as the years go on. There's a lot to look forward to, and I just want to temper expectations ever so slightly. Just because we've done well in pre-season doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to finish or compete for the Champions League. It might happen, who knows? But it's a long season.
Well, I want you to nail down your specific predictions for our season preview show next week. So get your thinking cap on of where we actually will finish and commit to something.
I could commit right now if you want me to.
No, save it. I think we should put them in like a little envelope or something as like a secret prediction. Like, I think this will happen, but we'll open it at the end of the year just to see where we are.
You think we're getting top 4, don't you?
Well, 5th potentially gets you Champions League this season.
Yeah, we need to work that out, because I don't know if it means Villa would get Champions League if they finish 5th or not. I think it's if like a United or something finish 5th, but I could be wrong.
How does that work? Surely it's just whoever finishes 5th, not who
because they have a very good coefficient. I don't know if it's done on club coefficient or the league. I don't know.
Right, okay.
I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if Villa would finish if they get Champions League. Maybe, but we should.
Well, let's work that out for next season, for next week. I think Villa could finish 5th. So if that gets Champions League, that's doable. two more things I want to talk about, specific individuals, and I think we're probably done for this show.
Okay.
Talk to me a little bit about Coutinho. I don't think we really spoke about him for the Brentford game, and that was his kind of first proper glimpse of football in the US. It felt a very easy link. He was a bit out of favour at Villa. Steven Gerrard now manages in Saudi, where they got bucket loads of money. Coutinho goes to Saudi, Villa get some decent money for him. His wages off the wage bill. Everyone's happy. He's come back and looked fit and sharp and can probably offer something to Villa under Emery. And if he can stay fit, I think if he's committed and wants to stay, etc., I think he could be a valuable asset for us, as we're talking about it being a very long season. So just talk me a little bit through your thoughts on Coutinho, specifically last night against Lazio, and his kind of role for the season ahead.
He didn't make too much of an impact in the USA. I think that's because he was coming back from a bit of a knock. He trained for the first few days on his own. But yeah, against Lazio, he was really positive. He made a good impression. He played for 45 minutes in the second half and was picking up pockets. He was playing in a role which I think suited him best, because he had Luca Dean or then Seb Revan as a left back behind him. So there wasn't too much defensive responsibility, because he also had a double pivot behind him as well. So he wasn't tracking back much, because he didn't need to. And he was just supporting the striker, Cameron Archer. So he was picking up pockets, getting shots off, trying to work things. He looked confident, and that's what you want from Coutinho. Like, if Coutinho is one, fit, and two, confident, that's nearly the Coutinho that we know that can, have a real impact on a team. So,
and again, that's another layer to the depth, doesn't it? If he's playing off the left and that's Jacob Ramsey's role, or Alex Moreno's role, or Yuri Tielemans' role, or he's playing off the striker and that's Moussa Diaby's role, or Leon Bailey's role, like all of a sudden you go, we are absolutely stacked in these forward options now.
I think 12 months ago we were all talking about Buendia being that's the one creative spark we have in the team, and if Buendia doesn't play, then we've got no chance. Now it's Buendia, McGinn, Diaby, Bailey, and other players that we have. There's
midfielders have got better at being more creative as well, and you need that as well.
It's bizarre. Over the summer as well, he was working hard in Brazil with a personal trainer, so he obviously trying to get back into shape. He missed basically all of the not all of the season, most of this, the final third of the season, I suppose it was, after the Arsenal game, which he scored in. So the last Premier League game he played, and he played very well. Who knows? We need to see it in the Premier League to sort of trust him again. I did write a piece about it saying that without Ramsey in the team, this is his opportunity to take that starting spot now. But he doesn't need to start every game to make an impact. As you said, Danny, he can play in the Conference League, and if he makes telling contributions in those games, then so be it. Again, that's why you have depth in your team. If Coutinho plays well, then you don't have to rely on Jacob Ramsey or another player to play in those games. They can then play against Burnley or Palace or whoever it may be.
Liverpool. Burnley is your example of like a tough game.
No, but Burnley always scares me.
I read the piece you referred to there about Coutinho, and you mentioned in that about Watkins kind of being like it could break Benteke's record of 90 goals in a Premier League.
That might have seemed weird because he obviously missed his penalty, but I was just watching him during the game, and the goal that he scored, it just hits you that he's so hungry to score goals these days. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, the goal was very good.
Yeah, it's very good, but it's something that he does all the time, Watkins. He always makes that run, cuts inside, tries to get a shot off, and I don't know if previous years it hasn't always worked, but like, he's so determined just to score goals now. Like, he's turned himself, especially under Emery, into a player that's just, he's determined to score, and he's so hungry to make an impact on the game. Like, when he's not a penalty specialist, and he probably shouldn't be taking penalties, but it's hard to knock him in a way because we don't have many of the penalty takers anyway. I think he'll get 20 goals next season. I really do, if he stays fit, because the amount of chances he's going to have as well. But he looks scary. Like, he's relentless in his running as well. He's powerful, he's strong, he's quick, he's athletic, and in his finishing chances as well. 3 goals and 5 in pre-season, which means very little really. But basing it off what we saw last season in the Premier League, I think he'll get 20.
Yeah, it's an interesting point with Watkins. I know there's a little bit of kind of murmurs online at the moment about him not signing his deal yet, and does that mean he's on the way out and all those kind of things. I don't know anything, but I don't agree with that. I don't think he's that kind of character. I think that will be resolved at some point, his new deal. Let's talk about like him running down his deal so we can leave on a free to a better club. I don't really buy that at the moment, but I understand the kind of questions about if he wants to say why hasn't he signed it. Other players have signed new deals, and I expect Watkins will sort his out. The penalty thing is interesting that you mentioned, and that was going to be the topic that I brought up. I haven't got the numbers in front of me, but I don't think his penalty record has been great over the years. I think he's scored as many as he's missed, which you can't really rely on. It's natural, isn't it, for your striker to take the penalties because they're the goal scorer. So if Ollie Watkins scores 12 or 13 goals from open play and 5 or 6 penalties per season, that's how he kind of boosts his numbers up a little bit, and that's the way to do it. It's almost a Watkins advantage that his goals tallies have been so high over the last couple of years without penalties. I think Watkins is a very good striker, and he's turned into a I'm not saying lethal goal scorer, but heading that way under Emery, at least, like you say about that kind of determination.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll get 20 league goals. I think he'll get 20 goals in all competitions because I think we'll go into more games.
Okay.
And again, I'm going to save this for next week. I think there'll be a different top goal scorer in the league for Villa this year, and you can probably have a guess who it is, but I'm going to save it because it might be a rogue shout. I don't think Watkins will be top scorer this season in the league.
What? Why?
No. Because I think there'll be somebody else who does it.
Watkins is the main man. He's the number 9. It was like last season, I think. And I know Danny Ings, when he left, he was the top scorer. But I couldn't quite understand that one. I just think Watkins year after year will be our top scorer. Double figures, 15 goals minimum, in my opinion.
We'll talk about that next week. The penalty thing is a problem now, I think. We've missed 2 of 3 in pre-season. Archer missed against Fulham. Obviously, Watkins last night. Watkins did score 1 against Walsall, so he's 1 missed, 1 scored so far. I say it's a problem. I don't know whether that's a bit of a problem. I was going to say whether it was
we don't have a penalty kick taker. If we get 5 penalties in a season, you have to score all 5. Those are key moments in games. If we want to go far next, you have to take every opportunity, and we don't have confidence in a player to do it. Don't get me wrong, Watkins, if he takes 4 penalties next season, he might score 3, but you want a penalty kick taker that you can rely on. I'm surprised
you want Barry, don't you?
So I thought Tielemans was a penalty kick taker, to be honest. I thought so anyway. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But Watkins has stepped up in it. I don't know what the situation is, but I'm also thinking about European competitions and cup competitions. If we're in a penalty shootout, we have a fantastic goalkeeper if Martinez is playing, but it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence with the players that we have. Who would you give your penalty? If we took a penalty against Newcastle 90th minute, 0-0, who are you giving it to? I've got
Gareth Barry come back or James Milner, because they were consistent every single time. The obvious choice is to give it to your striker because they are the goal scorer. But like I said, I think Watkins, I saw someone say earlier, so I can't verify it, but I think he scored 4, missed 6 or something like that in his career. I don't know whether that's right or not.
I don't know overall. I know he missed a penalty against West Ham, didn't he, in his first season, and he missed against Liverpool away.
I don't know whether that counts the pre-season games either, but again, his record at best, I'd say, is probably 50-50. Scores 50%.
It's about a 50% chance.
Like that, which, again, is not reliable enough to, if I've got to bet my house on who scores against Newcastle, I'm not giving it to Ollie Watkins. But then, because we haven't got a sample size of the other players to give it to, it's like, well, I'll give it to Douglas Luiz because he's good on set pieces, but might be crap at penalties. So it's a risk, isn't it? I would suspect Luiz or Tielemans could probably take a decent penalty, and I would imagine McGinn probably could as well, possibly.
Yeah, you know what? McGinn would, because he'd just leather it.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. But then you think, well, if McGinn can take a decent penalty, why can't Ollie Watkins?
I'd give it to Pau Torres.
Thomas is a decent shout to that. Imagine that 90th minute penalty to win the FA Cup and Pau Torres steps up. You'd be going, what the hell?
He'd be so relaxed, like just finesse it into the top corner. The one thing I would say is that he's changed how he takes them. Watkins against Liverpool, against Walsall, and against whoever we played last night, Lazio. The way he strikes the ball now, it's different, and his penalty against Walsall was really good. I don't doubt him that in training he's probably scoring a lot of them. It's just doing it in a game, and maybe yesterday was just unfortunate, and he will start to score much more penalties. So we'll see. But it is an issue because we're not confident in who's taking the penalties. So yeah, ending it on a negative, which is a shame.
I was literally about to say, is there anything else you want to talk about? Because I didn't really want to end it on why are we crap at penalties.
I've got a shout out.
Oh, go on. Let's do that.
Shout out. Yeah, shout out. Well, I saw a few fans actually at the games, but I didn't ask for everyone's name, unfortunately. But shout out to Matt. Matt watches the podcast from work usually, so I hope you're enjoying your shift, mate. If you're watching the podcast from work, again, and nice to see you. And I really appreciate all the people who come up and say, like, thanks for the hard work and the podcast, it's great, and all those different things. It really does mean a lot to us, and it's nice to know that this isn't, we're just doing a podcast. It's not hard work at all, but the stuff that we're putting in, it's nice to get the feedback and the nice comments as well. So thanks for that, and thanks to Matt.
There we go. Now we have ended on a positive. Lovely stuff, John. Thank you for that. Like we said, there'll be no post-match show for the Valencia game, but your usual written content will be there on Birmingham Live and on our social channels as well. Our next Claret and Blue show will be Monday at some point. Do you know what time the Conference League draw is? Because obviously that depends on when we do the show.
No, I've been trying to find out, but we don't know yet. I don't know if the Europa League draw is also happening on that day, but usually the Conference League is after, so I think it could be beyond 11 a.m.
Might be Monday afternoon into Monday evening when we release our show. We're just going to chat about who Villa have got and just some general thoughts on the season ahead. And then we'll be recording our pre-season preview next week as well, which will also come out probably Wednesday or Thursday. And then it'll be the Newcastle presser, the Newcastle post-match, and we'll be fully into the swing of things. And hopefully we're talking about 3 points of Villa this time next week, give or take a day or two. John, thanks for your time. As always, really appreciate it. And thanks everyone who's watching along with the Claret Blue podcast or listening on your audio platforms. We'll be back on Monday. See you then. Have a great weekend.